That's me and Dave again. We're on truth number 6. Dave, this is also one of my really favorite, and because I always preach about this one, nothing goes to waste.
Yeah.
I really believe that, and I always quote this verse, Romans 8:28. We know that in all things, God works for the good of those who loves him.
Yeah.
Nothing goes to waste.
He does finish that verse by saying, for those who are called according to his purpose. So he uses it all. Because he loves us, he uses it all for our good in the end.
For our good. Okay.
Yeah.
For our good or for his glory? Or is it?
Well, that's the interesting thing. God makes us because it's good for us to be made. God didn't make us because he was getting lonely.
Okay. Yes.
He created from nothing, ex nihilo, as they say, but he did it for his good pleasure. And his pleasure was always for the other, for us.
Yes.
He loves to see others loved and blessed. It's more blessed to give than to receive. That's what God does. He's a great giver. Eh?
Yeah. Dave, so I want to ask you just a question that's really, so myself and Rory, we meet on a Sunday morning. So we have a lot of things in common, but we don't agree on one thing.
Yeah.
And maybe you can give us some answers in this. And it comes to your past. How important your past is in the process. Now, when we speak about we are a new creation. Now, Rory, I hope, Rory, you don't mind me talking about this. Rory talks about, it's a new creation.
Right.
It's a new creation, the old is gone.
Yeah.
So it means the past is gone.
Yeah.
It's a new creation. I said, no, I like the idea of a reconditioned creation. Yeah. The Celtics, they believe that, you're returning to the essence. I believe that when God, the first time he created me so much. He said he knew me when I was in my mother's womb. He created me perfectly. And salvation is going back to that essence. So Dave, then the question is it a new creation or is it a reconditioned creation?
Well, it's like I say, in a fire, when the fire has come ravaged through and then new life comes after when the rain falls, it's new. It's new. It's that newness that comes, as we know, in the end of time, when the lion lies down to the lamb and I turn our swords into plowshares, it's a whole new deal.
Yeah.
Based on a relation with God. But I think you're also asking me about what happens to the negative things of our lives, eh?
Yeah, so what, if it's all new, then what is the relevance or importance then of our past and our, the time before it was new?
That is so good. I'm so glad you asked me that because that's the heart of it. Those are our failures, our past broken issues are the very places where we can access the grace of God. Because we know our neediness, we know we've messed up, and it manifests in different ways. It can manifest in depressions, it can manifest in immoralities, sexual deviances, all kinds of broken things that society now tries to manage and brush it and make it look like it's just another option for us. But actually, it's still part of broken humanity. It's destructive. Yeah. So our histories actually become places where we can taste the grace of God.
Yeah.
And Paul writes about this and says, we can comfort others with the comfort with which we have been comforted. Yeah. And he says in 2 Corinthians 6, he says, don't receive the grace of God in vain. Turn it into ministry. Yes. The very place where you've failed, you've suffered, let it be the place where you can access more grace. Yes. I think, in dealing with my own anxieties and abandonment wounds and things like that, I've found so much grace. God has helped me. And I know that He's therefore helped us to see how to do church with community values. We see that here in Fountain Vineyard.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't have happened had I not been able to come to grips with the shadow sides that have caused me to see the grace of God and transformed. And it's like gaining from your pain, as we say. All those cliches about that.
Yeah. So I can continue with my compost story in my messages.
Yeah, your compost story is very good. Very good.
Because, I think people listening and they will say that, but their story is just too...
Yeah.
It's just not, there's no ways for them to come back. When I remember right in the beginning, I told you about my meeting with Sebastian.
Yeah.
And I was just listening to his story. And the more I listened, at one point I said to him, Sebastian, your life is in a mess, my brother.
Mm.
And he said, yes, because he cannot believe how much has happened. This is a guy that actually started, he was once at a time, he was with the Drakensberg Boys Choir.
My word.
And from there, and where he's now on the streets, you know. And he lives actually, he sleeps in Dock Kennel number 2 on a corner of Witwatersfontein and Willem Moffat. That's where.
Really?
And I was just saying, your story has got value. That what you happen, only you will be able to tell, and you will reach people that only you will be able to reach. It will come. The time will come. You know, it will happen. So, and I think for people that to actually not to believe that lie, that there's no comeback for them. You know, and that their story is not valuable. It's not worth telling.
And then for the church to be safe enough for them to come back in their mess, you know. I think it's so important. I know we often get challenged by that. People say, you got people in your church, they're not even married, they're shacking up, they're sleeping together, whatever. How can you have them in the church? I say, well, where will they ever receive the gospel and the truth about Christian living, but in the church? So, though, you know, Jesus was challenged about that as well. And he said, man, I didn't come to save the righteous, but the broken, the sinners. That's why I came, to seek and save that which is lost. So church must welcome lost people. We're talking about people that have anger issues, sexual issues, deviances. They need to find a safe place in the church. And I know we've often had discussions about that. But that, of course, means that we can be welcoming. It doesn't mean we're affirming of the broken patterns, because that would be silly. We're not wanting to affirm the things that are the outward outplay of the inward brokenness. We want to make it safe for them to come as they are and receive the power of the grace gospel that teaches us to say no to ungodliness. And that sometimes means we've got to accommodate ourselves for the brokenness of people around us in the church. People like you and me. Others have to accommodate themselves. So as we ongoingly engage with the gospel and are transformed.
That's true, Dave. But I think there is still space for the church to improve, because there is still the stigma that certain things carry a higher value. You know, especially, you know, like when you talk about sexual sin, and you talk about anger. In the minds of people, not in your mind, but in the minds of people, there are still categories. And I think we can go a long way still to actually change that environment, because then you've got to ask yourself the question, if we think like that, how does Jesus see it? Does he see it differently, or does he also categorize those things? So I think we're doing great, I think, where we are, but I think there is space for us to actually improve on that.
Absolutely, Wouter. And that's an ongoing challenge. I've enjoyed our conversations over the years as we've engaged about this to stay faithful to the essence of the gospel, but adapt to the relevance of its expression. Essence and form, in the words of a great Catholic theologian by the name of Hans Kung, actually talks about the essence and the form. The essence should never change, but the form should always be changing. So our expression of the gospel to our broken, fallen humanity needs to always be invitational, because the essence requires us to, and it needs to be applied in a way. And if our generation, our season in life has a lot of sexual factors, then let's be clear about that. Let's be clear that we are inviting them all in. There's space for all. As we said the other week, the ragamuffin gospel, that can all come in.
Yeah, absolutely. You know. I remember when I grew up in a church, you know, we were not allowed to dance. You're not allowed to smoke. I mean, that was out anyway. You're not allowed to actually go to movies and all sorts of things. Everything was sin, you know, and it was I think it was a very clever way to control people, you know, and not actually have their own opinions about stuff, but. We know now, I mean, you know, it's not about, we're not focused, we talk often about, that's not about that, you know, it's about so much more the freedom, and that's what we're going to talk next week.
And you want people to change because of that discipleship, hearing the voice of the Lord. And he starts talking to them about the broken things in their own lives rather than us putting it on them. So that's very important. So the change is coming from within rather than pharisaically imposed demand for change.
But then, you know, saying all of that, in the end, in discipleship, we always come back to that. It is about His name, it's about His kingdom, and about His will. And if the church is only a place where I can feel comfortable and I'm not being judged and I can work out my salvation, and that's great. But if it stays there, then we are just consumers. It's got to, Monday morning, things have got to change where we go to. You know, and you've got to use the freedom or what, you know, that's what you have experienced here. It's got to activate action,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
like old James, you know.
Absolutely vital. That's why, and we just want to remind all our listeners today as well, we are really advocating in this year, 2020, that we on a wide platform read Alan Scott's book, Scattered Servants, because it helps us to take our faith into the marketplace, into the workaday world. We want to be doing that a lot better than we are. Huh?
Yeah. And also, you don't have to be perfect in order to start.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you can start right now.
Yeah.
And that's probably one of the great encouragement for me here was,
Absolutely.
you know, that right there where I was on my journey,
Yeah.
I can actually be effective. And you know, and that's one thing that I really appreciate about you, you know, that you've always encouraged me, you know, just and affirm. And whatever I was doing at that point, you know, I felt like, you know, it was meant something.
Yeah.
Yet I was actually still working out my own stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I just as we close this point down, I think of the story of a guy who was shipwrecked and cast off on an island all on his own, and he built a little shelter there, and he went off to look for food. He was there for a long time, and one day while out hunting for food, he saw a fire. His house was on fire. His hut that he built was on fire, and he thought, things couldn't get any worse than this. And he was just sitting in despair amongst the ashes of his house. And then with that, the Coast Guard arrived. And they pitched up on his island. And they came to fetch him. And he said, I can't believe it, that you came this very time. And they said, well, we saw the fire you lit. So what you think is designed for your distraction, God will use for your good, for your rescue.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful thing about the gospel, eh?
Well, may that be an encouragement to all of us. Thank you.